Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar, still gaining its strength here. We see now this medium-term trend and the long-term trend very clear in bullish territory. So that dollar strength really becoming more and more a theme. I know we talk about it every day, but it just continues, and that means the euro continues to look weak against the dollar. New downside target here activated, some 4% lower to 108. So quite interesting there. Against the yen, we're seeing the dollar also just powering ahead, and it normally shows up here first in terms of its strength. Sterling lower against the dollar, back to 128. Against the euro, also lower, and against the Swiss franc, lower. So sterling actually now struggling. Bitcoin is also just in the doldrums. No real change there, and bearish on medium and long-term time frames. The S&P 500 index up slightly yesterday, just pushing on higher. So this recovery looking more and more like it is in train. But what's interesting is this long-term fan pattern opening out, and that is creating some volatility. We had this sell-off at the start of last year. We struggled to just make a new high. Is that enough of a new high to say it's a higher high? Then we make a lower low. We really do need to move above this high to be confident the markets will recover fully. But at the moment, we're just on cloud resistance on the price, not yet through on the medium-term chart. We do have downside targets hanging over us as well. So we shouldn't be surprised, and we'll show up in the 60-minute chart. If we turn bearish on the 60-minute chart, we would become quite cautious about the market. But whilst we're above that short term, we're looking like a recovery. The same true of the Nasdaq, and the Dow also just starting to nudge through on that medium-term chart. So the big caps leading the way, and we see in the Russell 2000 the broader based index has got more work to do to turn that chart back to bullish. The futures are up this morning though. We're seeing the S&P 500 future up 0.31%, the Nasdaq E-mini up nearly 0.5% at 0.44% higher. Does suggest the markets will open higher today. Looking at the FTSE 100, we're up 0.4%. Just starting to look more medium-term bullish, just turning the corner here. We've got an upside target of 7% and some longer-term targets, 14 and 25% upside, but we've got to get through that resistance level. 4% is the short-term upside to play for. FTSE mid-caps, we are looking bullish here in the short term as well, and the DAX, we're actually just not quite through yet on the short and medium term chart, so it's just looking a little bit weaker there. The CAC Quarante actually looking stronger, making new multi-week highs. We're really now just starting to test this December high on the CAC, so that's actually looking quite good. Japan was a little changed overnight. Hang Seng was down 0.25%. China just down very slightly, little changed. And the key thing from the Chinese market at the moment is the shortage of short-term upside targets. We will get targets off this thrust column when it locks, so we will have the first upside target for a while, but it'd be interesting to see whether we can then go higher to activate it. The Indian market down 0.5%, just looking a little bit weaker there, and the Aussie market fairly flat. Brent crude up quite sharply this morning, hitting 64.70. So looking now pretty bullish, and we've got some good upside targets here, some 4% higher, 1% higher there. Shortage of medium and long-term targets for Brent, but this is the strong quarter for crude oil, so we shouldn't be surprised to see quite a bit of movement now to the upside. And the same for WTI, looking strong as well as you might expect. And we do have an upside target of 12% higher, but we have to move above that 55.50 level really to activate that. US nat gas sitting steady at $2.61, still in the doldrums really. Downside targets of 255 and 245, some 2 and 6% lower. Gold is down this morning on that stronger dollar, so we're sitting at 1306 on gold. We've got targets in either direction. We've got to wait for the break. We've got one downside target activated, one not activated, and two upside targets not activated. So it's really a case of we're in this range now for gold. We've got to see which way we break. Silver as you might expect, following gold, pretty much the same, short-term bearish with downside targets, so not looking as positive on the longer-term charts as gold. 10-year yields on the T-bond sitting at 2.7%, so still short-term bullish, and the German bonds now weakening short-term on the basis of that. So this the bond prices looking still pretty good medium and long-term, but short-term we're just seeing a sell-off. This data all coming to you from Thomson Reuters Icon. Remembering this is my long-term, my medium-term, and my short-term charts. If you want to understand this, look at the link below on how to read these charts. Then if we go to what happened in the Nasdaq last night, well, we had Activision Blizzard up 7%, so that's looking a bit better. This data all coming from Yahoo Finance, so I've got a relative to the Dow Jones Index, my 0.5% and 1% point figure charts, my long term, my medium term. And it's all coming off Yahoo Finance, so it's a good free data source. And we see Amazon was up 2%, up 0.12%. Google fairly flat, little change. Apple were down 0.4%, so just struggling a bit there. Facebook falling back as well, but still holding that medium-term position. But it was quite a mixed picture for the large caps in bellwethers in tech. Microsoft was down slightly. Netflix was down 2.3%. So we did see some quite big falls there. And if we look for Tesla, always a good one to look at. Tesla down 1%. So tech is a bit mixed at the moment. So it's quite hard to discern from that. Looking at the Aussie market, we just ranked by, we had Breville Group, they're up 18%, so that was a really big jump, pushing them to a new high. So that's a significant move there. Cleanaway Waste Management holding on to their bullish trend and making new highs. So there's some really good looking stocks here now. Good upside targets. Remember, you can do this with any stock you want. Magellan Financial were up 10%, so again, breaking to new highs. So seeing some really good movements there in some of the Aussie stocks. On the downside, we had Unibail, Rodamco, Westfield down 8%, AMP down nearly 8%. So just a massive difference between the leads and laggards there. The good stocks keep performing and the bad stocks keep underperforming. Looking into China, handful of stocks up. China Galaxy Securities up another 5%. They're looking much better for a recovery, and we have got some good upside targets there. On the downside, of course, we do still have some fallers. China United Network down 2%. In India, looking at the Nifty 50, we've got just ranking by performance. Yes Bank had a massive move yesterday, last night, and we see here we really have just jumped suddenly. We see still the market's still open in India. Live prices coming in here from Yahoo Finance, so looking pretty good there. Z Entertainment has also been under recovery this week, so we're seeing again some quite good moves as it builds after that catastrophic fall. India Bulls Housing not looking so good, although they're up quite sharply this morning, up 5%. On the downside, Indian Oil down 4%. Their chart's still looking pretty grim. And Bharat Petroleum, we're seeing also just selling off this morning, so quite interesting there. Hindustan Petroleum as well, so there's a theme going on there in India with the petroleum stocks. Looking across to Europe, we start by looking at the FTSE 100, again just ranked by performance. Micro Focus up 13%, so that's a really good move for them this morning. Just a shortage of medium and long-term targets here. There is a long-term target actually off this spike down. We've got another 50% upside potential based on that recovery target, so it'd be quite interesting to see that. And here we see the live prices coming in for the UK stocks, and AstraZeneca up 4%, Intercontinental's Group up nearly 2%. So some quite good performances there in the UK this morning. Coca-Cola, the laggard, down 4%, and Shell down 1.6%. So we are seeing, and even BP there, we're seeing some pullback on the oil stocks despite the rise in oil this morning. Looking at the FTSE 250, rank here by performance again. MoneySupermarket.com up 5%, so quite good moves there. Looking now medium and long term bullish. And then if we look at the downside here, we've got Covatech falling down 19%. In Europe, and the restaurant group also in the news this morning, the owner of Wagamama, they've had a massive fall this morning, taking them nudging new lows as well. So that's quite significant as well. So we are still seeing some big falls, but we have got some good rises this morning. In Europe, we've got Micro Focus leading the board. We looked at them. Gesheimer in Germany up 9%, so they're looking a little bit better, but still have work to do to turn bullish. And if we look at the other end of the scale, we have got Renko Westfield, the French stock. We saw that in Australia, they'd fallen. Same here. ThyssenKrupp down 5%. So not looking great there. That's a pretty bad looking chart as well. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.